You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
In this multidimensional world, much of which is invisible to the eye, a group of non-physical entities have come here to expand our knowledge of how the universe works. These non-physical teachers are called Joshua, and they convey their teaching through Gary Temple Bodley. Each week, Gary, with a selection of law of attraction experts, open up a roundtable of thought-provoking discussions surrounding the teachings of Joshua. Joshua's intention is to bring clarity to the listeners through the ever-expanding law of attraction by looking at reality from a new perspective. Welcome to the teachings of Joshua Roundtable.
Hello, everyone. This is episode 34 of the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable. I'm your host, Gary Temple Bodley. Today it's June 4th, 2016. This week we're going to talk about what's wrong with the law of attraction. It seems like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Is it broken? Is it inconsistent? Or is it our limited understanding of it? People are getting frustrated and we get it. The question this week comes from Michelle, who has spent thousands of dollars on books, programs, and coaches, all promising to teach her how to manifest her dreams using law of attraction. But it's not working. We'll talk more about the subject, and we'll attempt to fix this broken law. On the roundtable today, we have Michael Kutzen. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Steve. Gary and Steve. And Janine.
And Steve Finizza. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Gary, Janine, Michael.
And Janine Kudakovich. Hi, Janine.
Hi, guys.
Perfect.
Very good. So this week we're going to talk about, everyone, especially when you're just starting this stuff off, you have a general idea of what law of attraction is, and so you think you're going in the right direction, and then things don't really happen the way you think they're going to happen, and we're going to talk about what that is. But it's super common. We've all felt that way. You hear it from everyone. Half the questions Joshua gets is something to do with that. And Steve found a really interesting video this week from someone I had never heard of named Teal Swan, which she is a what is she, Steve?
Well, she's had a rough. She had a lot of contrast early on in her life, and she's taken that bounce, so to speak. So now she's a speaker. She goes around telling, helping people with the law of attraction.
Is she a channeler?
She does a lot more than that. She talks about everything from clairvoyance to other sorts of metaphysical subjects. She has a lot of videos on YouTube, and many of them are very good. Some of them I have some issues with, and we're going to be talking about one that that created some issues for all of us during this week, or at least ones that we thought was one in particular that we all thought was interesting this week.
And okay, so this is going to be a lot about what we're going to talk about. So this video and you can go on YouTube and find it. It's Teal Swan, and it's called "The Law of Attraction," and it's about everyone's frustration with it and why it's not working, and actually maybe it's on its way out, and possibly there's a new law coming in because this law doesn't work. And the way her tone in it is that she has the tone of people who are seriously frustrated with it, but it's just her way of presenting her subject, and it's not really, I don't think, I'm certainly not her feeling, but the way she comes around to it is really, it really causes an epiphany. So you can sort of really understand the point. And I thought she did a brilliant job, and I wrote a comment on her video down below there. But to me, it was like, yes, she's got it. It's exactly what Joshua would say. There is no discourse between how she ended up with her understanding and how Joshua would have said it. It's just that the way she said it makes you sort of like if you're a lover of law of attraction, you sort of take offense to it because she's putting law of attraction down. But she's not really. It's just the way to present her idea.
Can I share her example that she uses?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
She says that the example is a young girl who chooses a life path to be abused, and she vibrates at a frequency of trauma. So instead of healing, which she would more than anybody probably need, she's a match for more trauma. So even though she needs love and tenderness the most, she gets more trauma, and it's kind of a downward spiral. And this is fair from the law of attraction standpoint, impartially reflecting back to you what is already within you, in the hopes that it will cause your expansion.
Right. And right, in the hopes that it will. And if you knew how law of attraction worked, if you were taught as a child, then you could reverse the downward spiral. You could pull your way out of it. If you don't know, then the spiral gets worse. But there's also an upward spiral too.
Right.
The more confident you are, the more successful you are. The more confident you are, the more successful you are. The more happy you are, the more happy you are. That sort of thing. So law of attraction, without you working at it or understanding it or applying it, will cause this momentum either way. And that's what I think is at the root of people's frustration, is that their approach to life has been one of complaining, and the complaining brings up more things to complain about. And the more things are to complain about, the more you complain, and therefore the more things there are to complain about, and you go in this downward spiral. So what Joshua is teaching is stop complaining and start focusing your attention squarely on the positive aspects of whatever it is. Now, let's say that you have something horrible happening in your life, like you have a bad marriage or something. There's still plenty of positive aspects in that bad situation. And by focusing on those, you stop the downward momentum and you start the upward momentum.
Right.
By saying that you're in a situation and you cause the situation, which is if you're first starting law of attraction and understanding, teachings, learning, you know that you are the creator of everything, and so that you're responsible for everything, and that if there's something in your life that you don't like, well, you created that too, and you have to be responsible for that, but you say, well, I would never create that. So you have to just take this responsibility and stop and realize that where you are is a perfect place to start, and then go forward by changing your approach from looking at the negative to looking at the positive. And not just looking at the positive, but really understanding that there is no negative, and that the negative is only there as a reflection of how you're feeling anyway, so that you can know how you're feeling and go towards what you prefer and ignore the rest.
Right. Well, Teal in her video talks about shaming, law of attraction shaming.
Right.
And I think, and I've seen all kinds of crazy things out on Facebook and other places where people talk about, all kinds of spiritual and philosophical issues and can be mean to each other when doing it. But if you get to the essence of it, forgetting about, it's all your fault, and instead say, in some manner you may have attracted this, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that it's irreparable, or that doesn't mean that you can't get away from it. Well, instead you focus on what you want. But people also have to understand it's kind of like riding a big ship, and it does take time. It doesn't just happen overnight. If you're in what you perceive to be a very traumatic situation, to start to incrementally start finding the good. And then as you do it, the ship starts righting itself into, in the direction that you want it to go into.
Well, I thought that what she was talking about was how she got into this legal situation. And
what's wrong with that?
It was a court case, right? From you, that's a fantastic thing. You want to be in that. And so she was saying, why did I create this? Why did I create this lawsuit? If I was a conscious creator, how could I get into a lawsuit? And then she realized after a bit of time that the lawsuit was for her. So when she leaned into the lawsuit, then she had the breakthrough. So the lawsuit came for her. Everything comes for you. And it's just your resistance to that thing by you judging it as bad that makes you upset. And without that judgment of it as bad, you couldn't feel bad. It wouldn't be possible, right?
Right, but she did talk specifically about law of attraction shaming, as she put it.
Okay, so the shaming is like look at us here. We are law of attraction leaders. And when something happens to us, which we share all the time, and we get upset, well, no one shames us more than ourselves. You know, if I raise my voice at Lily because she's doing something I don't want her to do, the first person that shames me is myself. How can I, not understand what's going on here of all people in the whole world? So who cares what they say? They don't understand it. The worst part is when it comes from yourself.
Always.
Well, that's what she says. She says that if everything isn't sunshine, gumdrops, and roses, anything less than that, we're doing something wrong.
Right, and that's when, it's like anything. That you say you have a goal or something, and people ask you, "How's your goal?" Like I have this house I'm working on, and I've been working on this stupid house for 2 years now. It's almost done, but I see this guy who also has houses in this neighborhood that I have this house in, and every week he comes and goes, "How's that house going?" And here I am. I've renovated hundreds of houses. I'm really good at it. I love doing it, and I'm getting stuck on this one house. And so every week he comes in, "How's that house?" And he's just like needling. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet?
And he's flipped like 5 of them, right, in the same amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. There's a entire warehouse development office park that's been built in the time that I've been building this house.
Wow.
Just renovating it. But anyway, it's the same thing. When you think you're a good law of attraction, creator, conscious creator, and you talk about it like we talk about it, and something happens, people are like, well, it can't really be working if something's happening to you. But the thing that's happening to you is the thing that's there for you. That's the whole issue. It's not a bad thing. There's no judgment. Everything is a good thing, right? And if something comes up, then it's happening for you. Like when we had one of our franchisees didn't want to be a franchisee anymore, and so she changed the name on her restaurant and went out, and so we sued her, and we're in this mediation with her, and we realized that she was the reason we weren't having any fun in this business. Everything was a problem with her. Every time she didn't want to do anything we want to do, she was always fighting against us. She wasn't paying us, all this kind of issues. And we're sitting there and going, and also we didn't like her as a person at all. And
she's not hearing this.
I don't think Gary cares.
It wouldn't be a surprise.
You got to give it to him for honesty.
But anyway,
That's
we're
right.
saying, we leave this thing. He goes, why are we trying to keep her in the business? So this lawsuit was a perfect thing. Her leaving was a perfect thing. It was exactly the manifestation of what we wanted. We just had to somehow figure that out. And once we figured that out, then we felt like this wave of relief. And we're like, oh my God, this is so much better.
Well, Teal introduces the concept that I haven't heard explicitly, that you have 2 points of attraction when you're here in the physical. You have your inner self, who has a completely different perspective and might, like if you want freedom, say, hey, imprisonment is going to be a fantastic way for you to explore freedom.
Okay, so that's a little maybe unclear there. So here's how it works. You have your 2 points of focus, right? You have your human focus right here, which is limited, right? Your perspective is limited because you are looking at your life just about 2 steps forward as far as you can possibly see. And you see your higher perspective that is totally focused on what you as a human say you want. Okay? All right. So she may have been saying that the higher perspective is also thinking about what you intended prior to your birth, right?
Right. I think she says that.
Here.
Right. And here as well.
Right.
But that if you intended to, whatever, I think once you make your desires from this human perspective, then that's what the focus is. And that your inner self is completely focused on those desires that you've created now that you're here. Okay. So it launched you on your trajectory, but once you are here, now it focuses on those desires. So I don't think that you are just say you intended to live a life of freedom, and by being imprisoned, that is necessarily a way to do it.
Well,
I mean,
it's a way to appreciate freedom. I mean, if you're born into freedom, you don't. It's normal, and
Right.
you might not even. It might not be a blip on your radar, so to speak. But if you're Nelson Mandela, you really appreciate freedom at this point because of what he went through.
yeah.
So don't you think that if before we came here, we already predetermined who our parents would be, what our life circumstance would be, our situations, our trials, our tribulations, we also, when we're here in human form, we have free will. So sometimes we veer off path and need to find our way back.
Well, I think that let's say you intended to explore abundance, and so you were born. You chose a family, and you chose a family of poverty, and that poverty set you off on this path of exploration. And when I say abundance, it's like I think what your really specific intention is some really intricate, nuanced aspect of abundance. For instance, I had a friend who was born, here in America to a single mother who was a teacher, and she worked at a super exclusive private school, and part of her pay was that her kids could go to the school, but they were poor and all the other kids were rich in comparison, right? So he hated being poor with all these kids. So this was his launch pad. And when he got out of basically high school, he went right into making money in real estate. And he made so much money and did really well. But, he screwed over his friends in the way to do it, and he had a lot of issues, and there was a lot of problems with that. But he certainly did make money. And so I think that you can be born into this life of poverty, and then from that, you launch this desire as a human. And that human desire then goes forward into it. And as long as you're on this path of understanding what everything means, then I think it really you can use law of attraction to create this elevated experience of life. But I don't think that, that you are always tied to this intention that you set prior to your birth.
No, that's what I'm saying. You have free will to explore other things, whether you choose to continue with that or you veer off. Sometimes that also is for your best and highest good.
Absolutely. I think so too.
And Teal, and Teal did say that in the video as well. She put it as the temporal, and then I forgot how she framed it in terms of the more general things that we come down to. That it's our intention to explore when we come back into this material world. But she also said you can have this general sense, but you do have that free will, and that you can alter it through your conscious choices.
Right.
She posits something that's very interesting, although she really doesn't explore it, which is the fact that if you have the law of attraction, can't you in effect repeal the law of attraction through the law of attraction? And that was an interesting thing. She says, well, we can get to something higher or something better. This is what we have now. Early on in the video, she talks about getting to some different law. She doesn't get to it, but in effect, what I think she was heading towards was using the law of attraction to repeal the law of attraction. And it kind of reminds me like the Back to the Future movies, where if you go back in the if you go back and you alter the past in some irreparable way, that you somehow screw up the time-space continuum, or it led to some very interesting science fiction type of concepts.
Mm-hmm. So now that we're
talking... Oh my God, I left him speechless. I've never done that before.
That's very unusual.
Well, when we were talking about, your higher self or your inner self focused solely on what you want and has that perspective, and then you have this limited perspective, and when you feel emotion, that's your indication that you're off from what your higher self or inner self is focused on, and that your inner self is always focused on your best good, highest good, and for your benefit. So let's read the quote that we have this week too. Janine, you want to read that because that talks about this whole thing?
Sure. You have a guidance system that alerts you to those occasions when you are moving toward what you want or away from what you want. When you encounter positive emotion, you are heading in the right direction. when you feel any negative emotion, you are uncovering a fear and the limiting belief behind it. Stop and analyze what you are afraid of and realize it is irrational and has no effect on your life. Dismiss the irrational fear and move on, Joshua.
Okay, so this is what we're talking about, that you have this guy, like what we're doing now is fun. Okay, so fun is a positive emotion. And we know that if we're having fun and we're enjoying ourselves and we're feeling good and we're smiling, that we're moving in the right direction of what we want. But anytime there's a little negative emotion, like you think you might say something that was wrong or whatever, that's just a fear that's irrational, and dismiss it and move on. It's just a perspective that is based on a limiting belief. And the perspective does not line up with the perspective that your inner self has. That's why you feel a negative emotion. So stop, analyze it, and choose a better perspective. Choose a perspective that your inner self would have. And as soon as you feel relief, you've found that higher perspective.
And that's the trick. The trick is to have the awareness, stop, analyze it, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Some
That's
people
the
get
trick.
stuck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do too. Sometimes I get stuck, and then I have to bring myself back to the awareness and then reset.
You know what's interesting? If you were aware of every negative emotion you had, it would come up hundreds of times a day. You know.
Oh, sure.
You know, just the little teeny ones. You know, obviously the ones where you get angry, but even the little, just the little ones. And there's so many more of them than you know. And those are always just little ones that you could just wave away if you were thinking about it.
I've become more aware of my defensiveness. That is little, but it comes up all the time. And, well, should I say it comes, I become aware that it's come up a lot more than I thought it ever did. And I'm trying to dismiss that, okay, don't raise up the shields, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because defensiveness and how that works is that people in your life are there for you to move past these things so that you can grow. And so when someone says something that makes you feel defensive, they're attacking this aspect of your persona that you believe in, that you think is real, but it's not real. It's all made up. Who you are is a unlimited being of love and acceptance, unconditionally. Anything less than that is your made-up persona. So if you think you're smart, well, that's just like this aspect of your personality that you think is good. You judge that as good, and so you defend that because you want to believe that you're good. You want to believe that you're smart. You want other people to think you're smart. And when anyone questions that at all, and you notice this in other people, it's easier to look at it in other people, especially when we're playing poker. Poker is like this game where people make smart choices and dumb choices. And when people make dumb choices, it's really obvious. And everyone says, as they walk away from the table, losing all their money, people go, boy, that was really dumb. And so when you do something dumb in poker, it's really embarrassing. And the only reason it's embarrassing is because you are insecure about that aspect of yourself, because it's this part of you that you think is really true. If you were the world's greatest poker player and you did something dumb, not only would people not say it was dumb, because they would think it was like smarter than they could think, that far ahead. It was genius, right? Yeah. But you would never think it either, because you think you're a genius and you don't think you could even make a mistake. So you're so secure and confident in yourself that other people could never say anything in your presence that would cause you to bring up this defensiveness. So this defensiveness is for you on purpose to understand what it is that you are insecure about, and you can move through that, right?
Yes, and then
that insecurity is a limitation,
and life goes much smoother when you stop defending yourself too.
Well, totally. Think of defensiveness as a speed bump. Get rid of those defensiveness, and that's no speed bumps.
Clear sailing.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, there's no speed bumps on the ocean, though. So.
I know. Well, smooth sailing.
Yes,
then.
there are.
Yeah, waves. All right. Shall we talk?
Or did I just get defensive about that?
Shall we talk about the question for Joshua?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. Who wants to read for Michelle, and who wants to read for Joshua?
I'll be Joshua.
Okay.
I'll be Michelle.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Joshua. After losing my mom 3 years ago, I started exploring spirituality. It didn't take me long to stumble upon the concept that we create our own reality. I found that this resonated with me and brought great relief, as I had always felt that I was at the mercy of life's unpredictability.
Okay, so did you guys think that you were at the mercy of life's unpredictability when you were kids? Or did it seem to you that you could actually control what was going on?
I don't think I thought of it either way. I thought life was good, and I didn't really think about it too much.
I think I was of both minds.
Yeah.
As a typical schizophrenic kid often is. Sometimes I felt like I could really control things, and in fact,
Yeah.
I had kind of an arrogant attitude that if someone else could do something, I could do it too. And then there were other times where I just looked at everything that was happening, and I said, I'm just completely awash.
And I feel like I both sides as well, Michael. I felt like I could do anything, like I set my mind to or was passionate about, but then I also had a great respect for authority. So I was like, ooh, I can't push the envelope. I have to stay within this box. So
Yeah.
I came from both sides.
Right.
I remember as a kid, my mother was the worst cook in the world, and so I loved fast food.
She must know my mom.
Oh my God, she was so bad.
We
And
used to feed our food to the dog. Like when she wasn't looking, we'd put it down on the floor.
we had a dog. We never even had a dog. It was terrible.
What do you think you were eating? No. Oh, I didn't say that.
But I remember being in the car and like thinking, I really want to go to Taco Bell or McDonald's or whatever. And all of a sudden my dad would pull in. How did I do that?
He probably felt the same way.
Yeah, we need to eat something here. All right. So go to the next paragraph.
Okay. Since then, I've spent hundreds, maybe thousands on books, programs, and coaches that promise to help me manifest my desires, release my subconscious blocks, help me contact my spirit guides, and put me in touch with my soul's purpose. To date, I feel like I have not made much progress on my spiritual quest. Every time I start something new, I start to feel anxious and impatient, which in turn prompts me to buy something new and repeat the process. I'd give up on it if it weren't for this inner voice that keeps telling me to keep going.
Well, if you got an inner voice, you're doing pretty well.
You gotta listen to it.
Yeah, and most people don't have an inner voice, or they don't hear it. So that's pretty good.
Joshua, can you please guide me in telling me what my soul is seeking and where this frustration is coming from? Thank you so much, Michelle.
So Joshua doesn't tell anyone what their soul is seeking, other than to be who they really are. Nothing more specific than that. Because if they did, then that you would sort of like leap ahead.
They'd screw it up.
And miss all this stuff. Yeah, the people would screw it all up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when I hear.
That's what Joshua told me.
It's like when I hear people talk about, me and my relationship to Joshua and how this is going to be big, or this is where I am, or that stuff. I hate to hear it because I know that it's influencing me. Of course, I wouldn't hear it if it didn't need to influence me too. So there's like this catch-22. But it's so let's see what Joshua says.
You've got it. Dear Michelle, what a wonderful question. Your feelings reflect the frustrations felt by so many people as they embark on a journey of awakening and consciousness. You create your own reality, that's true, but how is it that you create this reality? Do you think happy thoughts? Do you wish for good things to come? Do you become a nicer person? All of this certainly is part of it, but there is a lot more to learn. Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, you came here to explore physical reality because it is fun, interesting, and causes expansion. You set some intentions prior to your arrival, and most of them were general in nature. You may have set one or more specific intentions, and you might call this your soul's purpose. We would say that it's not that big of a thing. Let's just say that there was some aspect of physical reality that you wanted to explore because it is interesting.
Yeah, I think when you hear the term soul's purpose or things like that, you think that that's the only thing you're here to do, that nothing else matters. But really, mostly you're here to have fun and have this experience and enjoy it. It's sort of like going to Disney World and wanting to go on the Matterhorn. Okay, that's not the purpose of going to Disney World, but that's one of the features of it, and that's your intention is to go on that ride. And that's all. That's as important as it is.
Right. Okay. You choose your parents, your family, and the time and place of your birth because you knew the conditions and the environment of your youth would launch you on the path towards the discovery of your specific interests. However, you have been given free will, and once here you can choose to follow anything you like. It all seems to work out in the end, and you'll be satisfied with this life experience.
Okay, so there's Joshua saying that once you're here, from this vantage point, you make new desires, and you can go in the direction of that, and your inner self is going to lead you towards whatever you think is a good thing. You could come here and feel disenfranchised and think that revenge is a great thing and you want to join a terrorist group and cause chaos. And your inner self would say, hey, okay, this is what you want now, this is what you want to explore, that's fine. Your inner self has no judgment on that sort of thing. Or you could want to be Mother Teresa. The same thing, it's sort of equal that way. We judge one thing to be better than another thing, but your inner self doesn't.
Okay. You can be aware that you create your own reality, and this means that as the creator of your reality, you are responsible for every aspect of your creation. Whatever happens, good or bad in your judgment, is created by you. You can create that which you prefer, and you can create that which you judge as bad or wrong. The good is always good, but what about the bad? Is it really bad, or is it just your judgment that makes it bad? This is the rub. This is the difference between being a conscious creator and a victim of fate. When you judge that something in your life is bad, you are resisting it. It is not bad, it just is. Your judgment calls it bad. You label it bad. You get others to agree with you, and they too choose to call it bad. But is it really bad? No. It's not bad, it just is. If it is in your life, it is there for a reason.
All right, so that's it. If it's in your life, it's there for a reason. Is it bad? No. It's just your judgment makes it bad. When your judgment makes it bad, you're resisting it. When you resist it, it has to come back bigger and stronger until you stop resisting it.
So you got to flesh out the limiting belief that you have underneath it.
Right.
It calls it that.
And maybe there, yeah. And so, like this lawsuit that we had, until we realized that it wasn't bad, it seemed like a bad thing was happening to us. Once we got past that, then it seemed like that was a good thing. It totally changed once we, broke through that resistance about it.
Shifted your perspective.
Yeah, shifted our perspective. And we saw how it was good. So Michelle's mother died, and, you can always see death as a bad thing, but, we know that it's not.
They went home from Disneyland early.
That's right. And they didn't leave you.
Right.
You have them on your cell phone. They can call you anytime you want.
They went home. You'll be going home.
You'll be going home. You'll see them again.
Right. And Disneyland, yeah. And home may be even better.
And you can call them on your cell phone. But the cell phone is your mind, and you can talk to them. Everyone can talk to anyone. It's just a matter of practice and belief. And I would say in 100 years, it's going to be a common practice. People are going to learn that they can do that.
Right. And that's a very important thing because we always focus on death as the most awful thing that can happen.
Right.
and we lose sight of the fact that there's more to life than death. There's more to death than life. It's just a change.
Right. Just a transition.
Right.
Good.
Okay. You want certain things, and the universe always answers you. The things you want do not exist in your life because you are not a vibrational match to those things. In order to become a vibrational match, you must change from who you are being now to the person who actually is a match to that specific desire. You have some limiting beliefs. Those beliefs are like a wall that stands between you and your desire. In order to see your desire, you must knock down that wall.
Okay.
So, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
So there you can see. Janine,
that wasn't a particularly good Ronald Reagan, but but it reminded me of that. But you know what's interesting? I used to always say that the only time I would ever, I'm 54 years old. For you younger people, the Cold War was a reality, and it was the reality that we were born into and that we lived through. And it was cold. It was much less intense when, at least, I was in high school and I was in college. I was born. I was a little boy when the Berlin crisis happened, and people were concerned that the nukes were about to fly, or the Cuban Missile Crisis, and that the nukes were about to fly.
Did you do duck and cover in school?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we did.
We did
when I was in grammar school in Edison, New Jersey.
Yeah.
But I remember saying over and over again, I said, the only way I'll ever live to see the Berlin Wall come down is when nuclear bombs are flying over Manhattan. So the idea that the Berlin Wall came down in my lifetime was so astounding that, it was unbelievable. And when I remember, I thought, what an idiot. When Ronald Reagan stood at the Berlin Wall and was asking Gorbachev to tear it down, I said, this is never happening. This is just posturing.
Yeah, see, that's funny how people will have these firm beliefs on things that say this will never happen. And then once it happens, you think, well, why didn't this happen before? It's so simple. Like self-driving cars. 10 years ago, we would have thought that's never going to happen. And 10 years from now, people go like, why would you drive your own car? That doesn't make any sense. There will be kids.
I take issue with that.
There will be kids who are like, you mean people were
some
driving
of us
in their
are
car?
visionary, Steve.
And they were
man.
texting and talking on their phone while they're driving. Did they kill anyone? Oh yeah, like thousands of people died every year. And they still allowed that?
Yeah.
They allowed you to drive in your car, and that's crazy.
So we as a family were watching a Western this week, and my kids, like one of them just looked at me and said, wait, so we went from there to there in just this amount of time? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
They can't believe it, like just from the late 1800s or early 19, it was in the 1800s, but it's amazing.
Yeah, so think about the change from 1880 to 1980, and then the change from 1980 to now is like 10 times that change. And the change from now to 15 years from now is going to be 10 times this change.
Right. Well, remember, it was considered to be hysterically funny when Maxwell Smart used to answer a phone call on his shoe.
Yeah.
With a rotary dial.
Right.
So
the idea that the phone wasn't, it was silly that it was on his shoe, but the idea that there was no wire.
Well, when
my kids saw it, they said, "Huh?"
When the guy invented the cell phone, people were like, why would anyone use this? We have phones in our homes. Why would we need a phone to take us around with it? That's ridiculous. So that whole idea of coming into a vibrational alignment with your desire, you have to have a different set of beliefs than you do now. That's why they don't exist. So if you can be open to the possibilities of anything being good and not judging everything as bad, then you can move a lot quicker towards where you want to go. And the only reason that you don't get what you want is because you believe that there's something about it that's not possible, or that's not right, or that's wrong to be like that. And once you change those beliefs, then all of a sudden the thing was always there, presents itself to you, and you can recognize it.
Right. Okay, keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. The universe uses a device called a manifestation event, which is designed to help you reduce the intensity of your limiting beliefs. Every time you feel negative emotion, you have entered a manifestation event designed to chip away at all. Oh, wait a minute, I didn't see it properly. Every time you feel negative emotion, you have entered a manifestation event designed to chip away at that wall. The manifestation events can be transformative as long as you do not resist them. However, you do not yet understand how this process works, and so you can't know why or how these events are there for you. You just think that when bad things happen, you are meant to feel bad.
Right. So here you are, learning about law of attraction, realizing that you're the creator of your reality, trying to be a conscious creator, and then something bad happens. Okay. So the bad thing is just your judgment of it. It's not a bad thing. It just is a thing. And the thing is that always there for you. And it's always there to confront your limiting beliefs. If you didn't have limiting beliefs in this area, you wouldn't think it was a bad thing. So when you see something come up and you think that's a bad thing, stop, analyze why you think it's a bad thing, figure out what you're afraid of, understand that your fear is irrational because you're not going to die from this thing, and work to find proof or evidence that shows that it's not true, because all irrational fears are false.
Well, let's say someone lost their job suddenly.
Right.
I've seen, that's something I see and hear quite a bit. And oh my God, I've lost my job. Please pray for me. Please pray for my family. And I guess the concern there is that, as far as the people are concerned, this is an existential threat because they potentially could lose their homes. They could lose. They can lose their way of surviving.
Okay, so if you go into the future with this, could this happen? It's could this happen? And it's just more fear and it's more limited perspective, and it's not true. You're not going to die when you lose your job unless maybe you're assassinated. If you're fired, you're not going to die.
Right.
So that's an irrational fear. So why are you being fired? Okay, so first of all, you're upset because you think that your job means something to who you are. You think it's part of your persona. You think, I have this job means something to me. I mean, shows people that I'm, that I have this level of status. And when I get fired from it, not only do I not have the job anymore, but I've been told publicly that I am not good at this job. But the only way you could possibly get fired is because something better is opening up for you, right? Something that you want. If you loved this job and this was the end-all be-all, you wouldn't get fired. And even if you were fired, it would get you into something that was even better. But the resistance comes from thinking that this was a bad thing. And I would bet you that almost anyone who's gotten fired from a job looks back on it from a perspective of time and thinks, okay, thank God I got fired from that job. Because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have met this person and gotten married, for instance.
Right.
And that was what I wanted more than the job.
Right. And in fact, that's exactly what happened to me at one point. I was in the early 1990s. I was losing my job from a tax firm that I was working for, and I wound up eventually with a solo. And I thought that was terrible. Not that I loved the job so much, but because No, I didn't at all. I was bored out of my mind, and I really wanted to do something else, but it was a recession, and I was scared. So I wound up eventually with this solo practitioner. I worked for her for 2.5 years. I still refer to it as my sentence for some crime in my past life.
Yeah.
However, I needed to be there. That's how I met my wife.
Yeah, right. I had the same situation, too. I sold my real estate company, and I was going to go back into being an appraiser. And to do that, you had to work under another appraiser for 2 years. But I had already been an appraiser. I knew everything, but it was just like this formality of this. You had to do this. So I went to a guy that I knew and said, all I want you to do is review my reports, pay me like a normal appraiser, and I will bring in all my own business. So you don't have to worry about the clients. You don't have to... It's all new business for you. Just review these reports for me, and I'll work in the office and that sort of thing. So I worked there for a year and a half, and I was getting more clients than he was, and some of them was going, I could handle it all, so I was giving him extra work. And then 5 days before Christmas, he fired me, thinking that he didn't want any more competition, right? So, and that he could take all my clients from me. So I
Merry
had to
Christmas.
scramble, right? And so I went to one of my clients, and I got him to invest, put up a little money, and he had a friend who had an extra office in his office, so I get this office for free. And then he also had his sister needed a job, so I hired her as my secretary, and was in the building, and that's where I met Lily.
Aww.
And had it not happened in that time period,
Right.
none of this would work, because that office was only available for 3 months, it turned out. And in the 3 months I worked there, and then got my own office also in the building, and got that office because now I had a name, and had some reputation, and they leased me the office and had grown the business enough by that time. It was difficult, but it worked out perfectly. And I knew back then, even before any of this stuff, I knew that wasn't a bad deal. I said, this is going to work out. But it seemed bad. Could have seemed bad. All right.
Okay.
Let's go to...
Okay, finish it up.
Oh, also, by the way, a manifestation event. I think this is like one of the cornerstones of Joshua's teaching that I've never heard anyone anywhere else. Have you guys heard this concept before anywhere?
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
This is truly a unique aspect of Joshua that if you have a desire, if you never had a desire, you would never have a manifestation event. It's only there to move you along your path by giving you an opportunity to change your beliefs. Some people do, and some people don't. If you can change your beliefs in a manifestation event, then you just move the next step ahead. If you don't, if you hold on to resistance, then you're going to get more of the same kind of manifestation events, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay.
Right.
So next paragraph.
Okay. You are one of the few humans on Earth who have found your way to us. That means you are vibrating at a very high frequency. You are more than you know. You are greater than you perceive yourself to be. You are a seeker, an explorer, and a teacher. You are well along your journey of self-discovery and awakening. In order to move forward, there are certain truths you must come to understand. You are the center of your universe. Excuse me. You are the only one who really matters. You are completely worthy and absolutely unique. You have the ability to create your life in any way you desire as long as you shed your limiting beliefs and your limiting perspective. It is all within your reach.
All right. So this paragraph pertains to every single person who's listening to us right now. I guess there's probably like 6 million people who listen to our pod show every week.
I think so.
6 or 7, something like that. But compared to the 7 billion that live on this planet, you all are, one of the few humans on Earth that have found Joshua. And that means you're vibrating at a frequency well above other people, I will have to say. You don't want to compare yourself to others, but it's just a fact that the frequency is high enough to somehow find your way to here. So congratulations yourself on that, and understand that you are at the leading edge of thought. That if someone who wasn't a vibrational match to what we're saying here couldn't even listen to the show for 10 minutes, they wouldn't even hear what we're saying or understand it.
I just did the math very quickly.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about 6 million people in a world of 7 billion, you're talking about a percentage of less than 1/10 of 1%.
Right. Very few.
Why? Should we be clear that we were being facetious when we said 6 million?
How do you know, Steve? How do you know? How do you know there aren't 6 million?
Because I've been looking at the analytics. It's 6 people. No,
Six
just
people.
kidding.
It's you, me, Janine, Mike, and 2 others.
And we are very special because we're
6
we
people.
love talking to ourselves.
yes.
That's not true, because I receive emails all week long about how much people like this show.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's probably 7 people.
And from all different parts of the world, might we add.
All different parts of the
That's
world.
right.
That's right.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. There is much to learn, and you are just at the beginning of your education, which will last this entire life, the next life, and on into eternity. There is no rush. You have nowhere to go. This is a gradual process of discovery and expansion. It's like peeling away the skin of an infinite onion. You peel away one layer and find that another one is always there. There is no graduation or end. It is a continual process, and thank God for that. Since you are eternal, you don't really want to be finished with anything. Sounds like my son with his homework. I didn't say that.
And he's right.
Is he one of the 6 million listening to this show?
No, I can assure you he's nowhere near that yet.
There you go.
You know, my whole family looks at me like I'm in La La Land. Although it's interesting, I met my daughter's boyfriend's mother at the pre-prom. My daughter had her senior prom, and she was very into it. She said, "Oh, what is this? I hear you're part of a podcast of some sort." So my daughter actually was bragging about it, and I showed her on my cell phone the teachings of Joshua. So if you're listening, you know, my hat's off to you.
Yeah. Well, that's how you
and,
find
and you have a great son.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
You are loved more than you can imagine by more than you could count, and we are truly grateful for your question. Your timing is more perfect than you know. Keep looking, keep seeking, and soon you will have a breakthrough, and the process will really start to get interesting. We are Joshua.
And I think that's the fun part. You know, we're doing a one-on-one with Kyla, and Steve was the same way. You know, you go through, and both Kyla and Steve were practicing law of attraction for a long time, and then they were having these breakthroughs. And the breakthroughs, they could see them happening, and they could see how these things were manifesting, and they could look at it from the higher perspective, and it just gets you more excited because you see that what you want is manifesting in the most elegant way possible, and you don't really even know, you can't even imagine how you got here from where you were. So that's the fun part of it. And I think that it's, you know, it's like anything else. You know, you learned how to read and write and do, you know, arithmetic for 12 years. So, and you were in it all day long. Most people who are learning about law of attraction read a book or two, and then they think they have it. So Joshua is like this next level above the general stuff. And I love how they explained it before, where like Joshua, everything that was before is the first week of kindergarten, and Joshua's like the second week of kindergarten. That's how much there is to learn, you know?
Cool.
Well, the concepts are not always intuitive here. You know,
They're actually counterintuitive. You know, it's like judo. The art of judo is taking the attacker's force and using it against them. It's a fighting with non-resistance, and all of how life really works is a non-resistant life. It's not going out and getting what you want. It's allowing it to come. It's an allowing life, not a making it happen life.
Right. Well, but you don't. But you also don't sit and wait for things to happen necessarily
Absolutely. You
either.
sit and wait for things until you're inspired to do them, and you do nothing.
But then you're inspired to do them.
Right. So you're interested. You follow your interests. You do what's the most interesting thing to do in that moment. You don't do anything you don't want to do. You don't do anything you should do. You don't judge anything as wrong. You understand that this is all flowing, and you only do that which you're most inspired to do in the moment. And if you're not inspired, you can go ahead and sit on the couch because you're not going to do anything anyway.
I just saw the pictures change here.
Yeah, what happened?
Still sounds good though. So
Are we all here?
we are.
Yep.
And we've got about
Janine?
we've got about 3 minutes.
I'm still here. No,
Oh,
I'm
good.
still here.
Okay. All right.
You know,
Okay.
it was funny that after I prayed and meditated this morning, you guys were talking about intuition. So I do little writings, and the ending of my writing today was follow your intuition, and you can never go wrong. Vibrate higher, shine brighter, and be the source of hope, love, light, positivity, and happiness the world needs to see. So I thought that was really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Steve, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, we lost Michael.
Okay.
Michael
Interesting.
abandoned us. Goodbye, Michael.
Wow. Well, we're at we got 2 minutes, so
2 minutes? Okay.
it's
So
okay.
one of the comments that we had this week was from someone who loved so much that we don't interrupt the show with commercial announcements or ads. So I'd like to take this time to say this show is sponsored by the Painted Ox, one of the most wonderful furniture stores in the world, and is owned by Lily. And you should go to the Painted Ox and check out all their furniture, which ships throughout North America.
I just dropped off the call, so I'm back in.
Oh, you're back, right? Interrupting
Yeah, my
commercial
computer
announcement.
my computer just had a little snafu. My whole computer went off, and now I'm back in.
Okay, he's in the middle of a little advertisement right
Yeah,
now.
we're advertising
Sorry about that,
the
guys.
store. Anyway, you can see it at thepaintedox.com or Facebook / The Painted Ox. So you can see all the pictures there. But really, just kidding around. Also, the new book, Health, Wealth, and Love, was supposed to be out June 1st, and it's not. But we think it's going to be out, say, June 10th. Maybe,
Oh, so
maybe
it's
next
just a
Saturday.
little behind.
You have
a
June
little behind.
30th on your email,
I changed it to June 30th.
just to
I
be
wanna-
safe.
Yeah,
This way it'll
safe.
be early. It'll launch early. See,
like-
that's
yeah, I
I
smart.
like the way you put Universal Forces have postponed the publishing date. Who are we to argue with the universe?
Exactly.
Gary,
It's
let's
some
have
kind
a.
of timing. Yeah,
I was going to say, Gary, let's have a launch party. That would be fun.
we should have a launch party.
We should absolutely do it.
That'd be good.
Great.
All right. Well, it's been another wonderful and quick and unbelievably fast show. We could talk like this for hours. It's fun to do every Saturday. I'm glad you guys listening in. Those 6 million of you around the world. Send us each one
Or
of you.
6.
Yeah, send a shout out so we can count.
Yeah,
these.
each one of you send
Yeah.
an email to contact@theteachingsofjoshua.com. So
We
can-
really do love to hear from all of you.
Yes,
we
we
loved
do.
the comments received. The feedback's
Yep.
amazing.
It's fun.
Right.
And if you have a topic you'd like to talk about, just also send us an email. You can send questions to Joshua, but there are so many coming in now that I'm really feeling bad that I can't get to them all, or can't get to most of them, actually. But I'm doing my best.
Well, they can
And,
lock you in with a one-on-one program, right?
if anyone wants to do the one-on-one program, I'm also just a little bit busy with that. I have 2 people doing it now, and I'm not sure if I can handle more than that.
Oh.
Because the book, The Joshua Diet, is being written too, and that takes a good hour a day. But plus, I'm trying to buy a house too, so that's.
Wow.
That's right.
You need to delegate.
I'm delegating to the universe. I'm just doing what I want to do. So
There
it's
you
working
go.
out perfectly. Okay, so
That's wonderful.
until next week, you guys have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next Saturday, June 11th, same time. Well, that'll be June 12th for you guys because it's recorded. It'll be played tomorrow. But I hope you have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay.
Have a beautiful week.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable with Gary Temple Bodley. We will be back next week with another fun discussion. If you would like to ask Joshua a question or read more of Joshua's teachings, please visit us at theteachingsofjoshua.com. See you next week.